The full moon loomed high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the quiet town of Blackwood. I had always loved the peacefulness of this place, but tonight there was an unsettling feeling in the air. As I made my way from home to my friend's house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I quickened my pace, my heart racing with every step. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the empty streets. I stopped in my tracks, frozen with fear. I heard stories of strange creatures lurking in the shadows of Blackwood, but I never believed them. That is, until now. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but the growl grew louder and closer. I turned around, and my eyes widened in horror. Standing in front of me was a massive wolf, its fur as black as coal and its eyes glowing as fierce yellow in the moonlight. But this was no ordinary wolf. It stood on two legs, and its front paws resembling human hands, and its mouth was filled with long, sharp teeth. I stumbled backwards, trying to find strength to run. But before I could even take a step, the creature let out a blood-curdling howl, and I knew I was no match against it. I closed my eyes and braced for the worst. But instead of pain, I felt a sharp wind rush past me, and I opened my eyes. The creature was gone. I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath and make sense of what had just happened. Then it hit me. I had just encountered a werewolf. I hurried back home, my mind racing with fear and confusion. As I walked through the door, I nearly collapsed in relief. But as I closed the door behind me, I noticed something strange. My arms were covered in deep scratches, as if I had been in a fight. I looked closer and saw that the scratches were actually in the shape of claw marks. My heart raced as I remembered the creature's claws, and the realization slowly sank in. I had been attacked by a werewolf. But how was this possible? Werewolves were just a myth, right? I sat on my bed, my mind whirring with questions and my heart still pounding my chest. I couldn't sleep that night, every noise sending shivers down my spine. But as the sun began to rise, I finally drifted off into an uneasy sleep. When I woke up the next morning, I thought it had all been a terrifying dream. But the sight of the scratches on my arms and the memories of the creature's howl quickly reminded me that it was all too real. I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting, that there had to be a logical explanation. But deep down, I knew what I was seeing was not of this world. I spent the next few days trying to shake it off, this encounter, but it seemed like everywhere I went, I felt eyes on me. I couldn't help but feel like I was being followed by the werewolf. I even started to notice strange behaviors of some of the townspeople, as if they were hiding something. I confided in my friend Rachel about my encounter, hoping she would have some sort of explanation. But instead, she looked at me with fear in her eyes and said, "You saw the Blackwood werewolf?" I was taken aback by her words. Rachel then proceeded to tell me the legend of a werewolf who had roamed the town for years, terrorizing its residents every full moon. The creature was said to have been cursed by a witch and would transform into a bloodthirsty werewolf every month. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was too clear to ignore. Rachel then told me the only way to break the curse was to kill the werewolf with a silver bullet. I couldn't comprehend the thought of killing another living being, even if it was a cursed one. But as the next full moon approached, I knew I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I had to face this creature and put an end to its terror. On the night of the full moon, I armed myself with a silver bullet and headed to the outskirts of the town, where the creature was said to roam. I waited anxiously, my heart in my throat as the moon rose higher in the sky. Suddenly, I heard a familiar growl and the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. I aimed my gun, and as the werewolf emerged from the darkness, I pulled the trigger. The silver bullet struck the creature, and it let out a howl of pain before collapsing to the ground dead. I stood there, shaking in the shock, as if I realized what I've just done. I quickly turned and fled back to safety of my house. The following day, news spread through the town of the death of the Blackwood werewolf. And as the sun set that night, the town seemed to lift the curse that had been plaguing them for years. But for me, the memory of that terrifying encounter and the weight of taking a life will never be forgotten. Every full moon, I couldn't help but wonder if the werewolf's curse had truly been broken, or if there were still more of its kind waiting to hunt down innocent victims like me.